rebuild only what was lost. We build what must last. Let me conclude with the hope and the promise. The hope is that this presidency will lead to such tangible progress that a third cycle on the same issues may no longer be necessary. The promise is that our commitment will endure to Ukraine, to its people, and to a vision of peace and prosperity shared by Italy, Europe, and the global business community. Thank you for your trust, and let us begin. Thank you.
We now invite His Excellency Matthias Cormann, Secretary General of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this session. At the OECD, we're very proud to be supporting Ukraine strongly in advancing its ambitious reform priorities. We are halfway through a 4-year OECD Ukraine country program, which we launched in 2023 and which forms part of an initial accession dialogue for Ukraine to the OECD. Ukraine's unwavering commitment to pursue important reforms and the successful reform outcomes Ukraine has been able to achieve so far in the most challenging of circumstances are incredibly impressive and inspiring. There is no doubt in my mind that once a just and lasting peace has been secured, Ukraine's hard work on reforms right now will provide a strong foundation for a strong recovery, for strong growth, and for increased prosperity and living standards for the people of Ukraine. Ukraine has done a lot of work to materially improve public sector and business integrity. This will help boost trust and future investment. Indeed, Ukraine has succeeded to materially decrease public experience of everyday corruption. A credible survey conducted on 8 occasions across Ukraine since 2007 shows that the share of citizens reporting experiences with corruption has dropped sharply from 70% in 2015 to just 15% in 2024, an outcome which can be directly attributed to the government's efforts. Indeed, assessed against the OECD's public integrity indicators, Ukraine has built a robust legal and institutional framework to tackle corruption risk and boost integrity. In fact, the quality of Ukraine's legal and institutional integrity arrangements is now above the OECD average in several key areas. Indeed, Ukraine's national anti-corruption strategy fulfills 73% of OECD criteria on the quality of its strategic framework and 80% of criteria on implementation, well above the OECD averages of 43% and 36% respectively. We have recently finalized and publicly released our Integrity and Anti-Corruption Review of Ukraine, which provides recommendations for further progress. By strengthening the government's audit and control systems, by swiftly implementing the new lobbying framework in a way which is consistent with OECD best practices, and by continuing the judicial reform momentum, including by implementing the new ethics code and whistleblower protections. More broadly, we are working with Ukraine on reforms to unlock greater competition, dynamism and productivity in the economy. The OECD's competition policy peer review, which we plan to launch in October, will help Ukraine align more closely with OECD standards on competition investigations and merger controls, as well as with the European Union's competition rules. And we have supported Ukraine in aligning with the OECD guidelines on corporate governance of state-owned enterprises. In November last year, Ukraine introduced a new state ownership policy boosting transparency in the supervision of state-owned enterprises, aligning their operations with market principles consistent with OECD guidelines. To improve public sector effectiveness, Ukraine is also moving ahead with further reforms on administrative decentralization and to strengthen municipal governance capacity. We're supporting Ukraine in implementing its decentralization reform roadmap, including by building capacity in local governments to design, fund, procure and monitor reconstruction and recovery projects. In support of Ukraine's macroeconomic policy framework, 2 months ago in Kiev, Prime Minister Shmyhal and I also launched our 2025 OECD Economic Survey of Ukraine. That survey highlights key policy priorities to help strengthen Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction, drawing on its full potential once the security situation improves. Improving the business environment by easing regulatory burdens and enhancing the functioning of electricity markets, strengthening public finances by increasing spending efficiency and optimizing tax collection, and importantly, addressing labour shortages by increasing incentives for the return of displaced people and by boosting women's labour market participation. A high-quality education system will be key for Ukraine to unlock its full potential, and the OECD is working with the Ukraine Ministry of Education in order to support those efforts. Indeed, we are working with Ukraine's Ministry of Education to design, pilot and roll out a new online tutoring system, POVIA. To measure both student and adult skills, we are very happy that Ukraine will also be participating in our Teaching and Learning International Survey, as well as our 2026 PISA assessment. The OECD will continue to work very closely with the government of Ukraine to support its reform journey, and we will continue to support reforms that help Ukraine progress its future OECD and EU membership aspirations. Today, the OECD is signing a joint statement with Ukraine on strengthening competitiveness in Ukraine and economic convergence with OECD and the European Union to support progress towards those aspirations, including through an economic convergence scoreboard to measure Ukraine's progress and identify key priorities for further actions. Our work at the OECD is fully aligned with the priorities of the EU Recovery Facility for financial assistance to Ukraine, and we will continue to coordinate closely with the government of Ukraine and all our international partners, including and in particular through the Ukraine donor platform, to avoid duplication of effort and to leverage our respective strengths. We look forward to continuing our work together in support of the government of Ukraine in building a prosperous, free and European future for Ukraine. Thank you very much.
To conclude this session, please welcome His Excellency Haoliang Xu, UN Under-Secretary General and Associate Administrator of UNDP, speaking also on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations, I thank the governments of Italy and the Ukraine for convening us today. From the outset, let me reiterate the UN's full commitment to the sovereignty, independence, and the national integrity of Ukraine. The gathering affirms our unwavering pledge to a future where peace defines the lives of the Ukrainian people. I visited Ukraine recently to discuss recovery efforts with senior officials and to meet people rebuilding their lives amid the war. That includes meeting Vera and her husband in Bolodianka, reconstructing their home after the land was cleared of unexploded ordnance with UN support. Since the earliest days of the war, the UN has stood alongside the people of Ukraine. In 2024, over 20 UN agencies delivered coordinated humanitarian recovery and development support. Thanks to the strong donor support, nearly $2.5 billion was provided under the humanitarian needs and the response plan, and over $685 million was invested in recovery and development. Some notable results include over 8.4 million people received life-saving humanitarian assistance, and 23 million people will have regained access to basic services through the recovery of the energy sector by the end of 2025. Looking ahead, the new UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2025-2029 will focus on investing in people, fostering inclusive economic growth, protecting the environment, and promoting peace, justice, and strong institutions. The UN will continue to support the government's recovery portfolios, everything from green energy to demining and economic revitalization, while convening stakeholders to co-design inclusive and sustainable solutions. We call on all partners to champion local leadership, mobilizing the private sector and unlocking concessional finance. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, from energy to demining, from jobs to justice, the United Nations is committed to an inclusive recovery that reimagines Ukraine's future. Investing in reconstruction and recovery requires all of us to also invest in peace. The UN reiterates its call for a full, immediate, and unconditional ceasefire toward a just and lasting peace grounded in the UN Charter, international law, and the relevant resolutions. Thank you very much.
With this, we conclude the opening segment of the Recovery Forum. The voices we have heard representing national governments, European institutions, and the business community have laid the foundation for what this forum is designed to achieve: strengthening partnerships, advancing dialogue, and aligning efforts for Ukraine's recovery.